Hi. Today we're going to talk about how to annotate a text. First, we have to read the text. Then, we're going to highlight specific parts of the text to show that we know CER, claim, evidence, reasoning. So the claim is going to be highlighted in green, the evidence is going to be highlighted in blue, and the reasoning is going to be highlighted in pink. Let's begin. Dystopian books. Why kids love reading about the bad place. There is more to the dystopian craze than meets the eye. The dystopian genre is hot, particularly for YA readers. In the school media center where I volunteer each week, books like The Hunger Games trilogy fly off the shelves. The waiting list is into the double digits, and students are constantly checking in to see if a copy has been returned early. Ditto for the City of Embers series, The Giver, Unwind, and the Maze Runner trilogy. While classics such as Animal Farm, Fahrenheit 451, and Lord of the Flies are less popular, we've still seen a noticeable uptick in the number of copies circulating this year. What's the big deal with the dystopian genre? The battle over the bad place. The word dystopia comes from the Greek, meaning bad place. The genre typically explores political and social oppression, and the novels often take place in a grim post apocalyptic future. Some educators and parents consider the themes in the dystopian genre to be too dark, mature, and violent for students. It makes them nervous. Many dystopian novels, including The Giver, Lord of the Flies, Brave New World, and Animal Farm, perennially appear on the American Library Association's list of challenged and banned books. Books that various individuals and groups attempt to remove from schools and libraries each year. The dystopian genre as a teaching tool. While many of these groups claim that the novels seek to brainwash students, dystopian literature actually prompts the opposite. Students can explore the constructs of societies and how they function, as well as the concepts of oppression, fear, and manipulation. Dystopian literature can be used across the curriculum. The Hunger Games, for example, can be used to study the economics of supply and demand. In the books, the government controls which goods and services are available to various districts, using starvation and deprivation as a means of social control. Students can also explore how governments and individuals wield power. They can study how power can be used to corrupt or for the greater good. They can also examine the importance of political alliances and how governments in dystopian novels correspond to actual present day regimes. Students can compare visual depictions of utopias versus dystopias through paintings and other artworks, as well as the ethics of citizens trying to survive in dystopian societies. Here's a related lesson plan. I might have to check that out. Why kids love dystopian books. I suspect that the dystopian genre resonates with kids so strongly because, to some extent, they are experiencing some of the same challenges as the novel's characters, albeit on a smaller scale. Characters in dystopian novels often struggle against unfair authoritarian regimes and have little control over their lives. Students often feel that they are at the mercy of their parents, teachers, coaches, and sometimes peers. Perhaps they identify with the battle for autonomy and freedom waged by their literary counterparts. Yet, despite the oppressive conditions that appear in such novels, hope is a prevailing theme in the dystopian genre. The characters ultimately gather themselves to find the courage, knowledge, and resources to battle the enemy, and they generally do it through sheer intelligence and guts. The stories are compelling, thought provoking, and prompt readers to think, what would I do in that situation? In a nutshell, it's the little engine that could, but placed in a dark, tormented world where survival is ultimately at stake. All right, so now that we've read the article, we're going to go back and find the CER, the claim, the evidence, and the reasoning. So the first thing I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to find my highlight color and we're going to find the claim. All right. So the title will kind of give us a clue as to what the author's argument is. Why kids love reading about the bad place. So she really wants to explain to us why kids love this genre. So in this first one, she's talking about why, she's giving some evidence. So we're going to come back here for when we highlight for evidence. Here's where she's explaining what dystopia means and where it comes from, and some of the themes that can be found. Here's where I think she's getting into her reasoning and some logic for why it's popular, and dystopian as a teaching tool. But here is where another signal, right? Subtitle: Why Kids Love Dystopian Books. Well, that gets to her claim. And here she has a reason. I suspect, right? So I think. So here's where she's saying her claim. So she thinks, right, that kids like these kinds of books because they experience what what the characters experience. Sorry, we were here. Okay. So that's what you're going to highlight in green when you go back to after you watch this video, right? Or you could be doing it side by side. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back up to the top here because we're going to look for evidence. So where does she start giving facts or telling stories about why kids love this kind of literature? So first she starts out with a little story here, right? All right. And like I said, this is where we were talking about maybe she is building her case. So here's where I'm going to highlight for reasoning. All right. So we're going to talk about why it makes people nervous and that people try to ban these books or get rid of them. They think they're too hard or too scary for you guys to read. All right. And here's where we are going to talk about how it can be used, right? So I'm going to highlight this whole thing in blue because there's a whole bunch of evidence as to why kids like it and what they can learn from it. Okay? Here's our claim again. And there's some more evidence. So why do they like it? Why do they like it? Some more evidence, and then one more. This last sentence down here. What would I do in this situation is more evidence. All right. So when you are done, you should have a very colorful piece of paper with some blue at the beginning, some pink in the middle here, some blue, only one sentence as our claim, and that's it. Now you're going to go and highlight your copy and turn it in.